Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. So we're going to have a look at whether the next week's 10 days. So today's second video takes us to around the 17th of June. So we're going into the second half of June with week 10 day video updates now. And weather's looking unsettled. We've released JMA Friday, which is the month-end look, and it takes us to the end of the month, even into the beginning of July. And things do look a little bit unsettled now for June, potentially shaping up to be quite a cool, wet month, I have to say. And we'll see what the models are showing for the next week to 10 days very shortly. We'll have the next update for Le Mans coming up later on today. We'll see whether that's going to be having any weather impacts from this unsettled weather. That'll be released later on this evening. We'll begin at MetCheck.com though. Interesting news about the upgrade to GFS. So you'll know that, if you've been watching the videos, you'll know that since last year, the end of last year, we've been talking about the GFS operational and GFS parallel run. So parallel run being the upgraded version of the GFS model. It looks like the parallel run will become the main operational GFS next week. So here we go. At MetCheck.com, they're saying the FV3 waiting in the wings, and the piece says a pretty big week in Weather World next week as we say goodbye to the old GFS 14 and welcome a brand new upgraded model, which is a total overhaul of the physics. The model is called FV3 GFS at the moment and works on the world being a finite cube, which it is, as opposed to the old style square grids, which it isn't. Plenty of work for lots of weather sites around the world, many of whom use the GFS as backbone model for their forecasts. We don't, but we do incorporate some of the data into our modelling, as well as providing all the charts for the GFS. The switch happens next Wednesday for the midday run. That's the 12th of June. When the FB3 model will come through as the new GFS. There has plenty of talk in the there has been plenty of talk in the Met community about the cold bias of the FB3, but recent upgrades have made this less of a concern. We've been following both models now for nearly a year and we're already here for the switch, but from a forecasting point of view, is this a better model or not? Question mark. So anyway, it's going to be next week, the 12th of June, Wednesday 12th of June, midday run will be the first run of the new GFS model becoming the operational GFS. So after next Wednesday, there'll be no more talk about operationals and parallels. We'll just have the single operational GFS model. And then we'll have time to bring back the Canadian model, the GEM, which I know a few of you have missed. So next Wednesday is going to be a big day where we switch over from the current operational to what is currently the parallel, but will become the operational GFS from next Wednesday, 12th of June. So that's going to be quite exciting for weather anoraks and weather geeks. Right, this is how things are looking with the radar picture from theweatheroutlook.com right now. We've got Storm Miguel bringing a bit of a deluge across England and Wales. Heavy outbreaks of rain are moving north across England and Wales. We have got a clearance of that rain south of the M4 at the moment, but you'll notice, if we go further down and scrolling, you'll notice around the channel lines there's some very beefy showers beginning to break out, and these showers are going to be pushing northwards through the course of this afternoon. Could be some really big downpours out there this afternoon, torrential rain, a risk of hail, thunder, lightning, as this main area of wet weather gradually moves its way northwards into northern England, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland. It's going to get a bit stuck, that main area of rain, by the way, through the central swathe of the country tonight. So it's going to be pouring with rain all night across parts of southwest Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. Further south we'll have those heavy showers and thunderstorms rumbling on into the evening. Driest places today will be across the north of Scotland. Not only is it really wet. It's also a cold day as well, where we've got this persistent rain. So we have got maximum temperature of 19 degrees flashing away there over at Norwich. They're just about staying out of trouble with a lot of this wet weather. It's not too bad at all there. And up across northern and western Scotland, it's not too bad with temperature either. So, for example, Esdalemuir is at 17 degrees and going up to Glasgow up to 17 degrees up there, and Altnahara on 17 degrees. But where we've got this pouring rain, it's really, really very cool indeed for a June afternoon. Little Rissington, for example, at just 11 degrees, 52 Fahrenheit, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in June. Church Lawford near Rugby at just 14 degrees. And if we go over to Wales, it's even worse there. So Hereford, for example, 12 degrees. And then in towards the middle of Wales, Sennybridge at just 10 degrees, 50 Fahrenheit at 2 o'clock on a June afternoon. That's very, very dismal indeed. Lake Vyrnwy again at just 10 degrees. So not only is it pouring with rain, also an unusually cool, even cold afternoon across much of England and Wales. Temperatures will probably lift up as this rain clears in the south. Let's see if that's happening. So yeah, we've got Thorney Island going up to 15 degrees now, Bournemouth up to 16. But of course, that's going to start to spark off those heavy showers and potential thunderstorms. When they come along, the temperature will take quite a plunge as well. And not only have got cold temperatures and also heavy rain, it's going to get really windy tonight. There could be gales across southern parts of England and Wales. So, well, it is June, it is summer, but the weather is more indicative of the middle of autumn, really, than June. This is how the Euro 4 is forecasting things at Weather Online. So here's all of this wet weather moving up across England and Wales right now. If we run through of course, in the afternoon, so that rain carries on pushing north. There's the heavy showers coming into the south. Look, we've got those potential torrential downpours. Where those purple colours turn up, that's a potential for torrential downpours across some parts of southern England as the main band of rain eases its way northwards in towards northern England. So there could be some really big showers and thunderstorms around in the south late this afternoon. Into the evening, those showers and storms push northwards in towards the Midlands, for example. So some parts of the Midlands could get a real deluge this evening after this main band of rain has pushed. I'm sure some places will be seeing over an inch of rain today, maybe even a couple of inches of rain in some of those thunderstorms. And then into tonight, it's midnight, so still a lot of heavy showers rumbling around through the Midlands. Even then, the main band of rain, as I say, becoming stuck, particularly across northern parts of England, just into the southwest of Scotland. Not quite getting towards Northern Ireland, but it'll probably be quite damp there. And then through into the early hours, into tomorrow, that rain, persistent rain, sort of pushes further north into some southeast parts of Scotland. It doesn't look as though much of Scotland will stay out of trouble with this feature, actually. And we get kind of like a pushback of the front across particularly parts of the Midlands through the course of tomorrow morning, bringing more wet weather in across the Midlands and some eastern parts of England as well. It will be very windy. You can see from the tight bars. Also, it's a windy day across England and Wales. Tomorrow morning in particular, it all clears out of the way into the North Sea by tomorrow evening. Things finally start to calm down, although certainly probably will have sunshine and showers. So a lot going on in the next 24 hours. Going to be a lot to keep an eye on in terms of the weather. Going to be some really big downpours and going to be windy, cold, so very inclement weather really for June. And also things are staying pretty mixed, as I said at the start of the video, into the more extended range as well. So these are the GFS upper air and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Bristol today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Bristol. Starting off close to average right now, but temperatures are going to be dropping away as we go through the next few days. So over weekend into next week, looking really quite cool indeed. Through into the middle part of next week, temperatures do stage a bit of a recovery, but only a bit of a recovery. We're only talking about getting closer to average. And even then, there's a lot of scatter in there, so there are still several members of the ensembles that are clustered around there, which is really quite cool. In the more extended range, in the second half of the month, possibly signs that we get closer to average, but really I think we can say the GFS ensembles have backed away from the idea of any significant warm-up appearing through even into the second half of June. It looks like overall the temperatures are staying quite cool in terms of the upper temperatures. Precipitation-wise, a lot of rain to come. This spike just here starting us off is today's deluge, and we just keep lots of precipitation spikes going through to the middle of the month. That's 15th of June just there. You see regular bouts of rain, showers, longer spells of rain, and even into the second half of the month there's no real sign of a drying trend there for Bristol. Now bear in mind, Bristol is going to be one of the wetter places in the country because it's close to the Irish Sea, and Bristol Channel is exposed a little bit to the Atlantic, so it's going to be one of the wetter places. But I think this is indicative of what we're going to see through many parts of the country. Actually, it does look as though things are going to be staying pretty unsettled even into the second half of June. Temperatures hardly inspiring. Temperature anomalies from the 7th to the 15th of June below average. Colder than average week coming up, taking us up to the middle of the month. I would have thought that by the time we get through to the middle of June, we're probably going to be below average for the first half of June. I think central temperature will be below average by middle of June. Obviously, where we go in the second half of the month will then determine whether we come away with a colder than average month. But I think the chances of this June being colder than average are increasing all the time at the moment. We could well come away with quite a cool month here, the way this is starting to develop. Precipitation anomalies look like that from the 7th to the 15th of June. So for the far northwest of the country, actually it's a little bit drier. So western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, a little bit drier up there. But for England and Wales, actually looking quite wet with the precipitation anomaly in weekend. So this is quite an unusual situation, actually. And what's going on, and you can see it in a moment when we go through the generic charts. We've got high pressure out to our northwest and low pressure sort of through here with a northeasterly wind. And what this means is that for northwestern parts of the country you get driest weather, but England and Wales, particularly eastern parts of England and Wales, tending to be quite a bit wetter. This is how the GFS operational run is looking for Monday then. And looking rather cool, rather showery on Monday. And we keep these cool, showery conditions going into the second half next week. Now, look what's going on here. This is a very, very unusual weather pattern. We've got high pressure blocking still. Yes, that blocking area of high pressure that got going back in April. That's still a major player in next week's weather, sitting up there around Greenland and Iceland. So it's pulling in this northeasterly wind, so that's why the temperatures are pretty cool. But look what's happening over Germany. You've got low pressure developing over Germany. That's because the hot air, there is always going to be hot air at this time of year, pumping northwards out of Africa and Mediterranean, but that's pumping into the eastern side of Europe. So you've got very warm to hot air pumping up the eastern side. Cool air is being pushed down into the northwest of Europe like that, and the temperature contrast between the two starts to generate low pressure across central parts of Europe, a trough within the 500 millibar flow. And look what happens with that low pressure. It moves into England and Wales by Thursday next week. That would bring a deluge in from the east through the middle and second half of next week. Outbreaks of heavy rain moving in from the North Sea, particularly affecting England and Wales. You see why Western Scotland and Northern Ireland are driest in this weather pattern, because they're closest to the blocking area of high pressure. It's a very unusual weather pattern that we've got going on here, and we keep these cool and showery and quite unsettled conditions going in towards day 10. This is taking us through the weekend of the 15th, 16th of June, where there are going to be those events going on that we've been forecasting for over the past few days. Le Mans, Download, Isle of Wight Festival, all of those events are taking place over this weekend. To be honest, it's not looking great. It looks as though, particularly for southern parts of the country, the weather could stay quite showery. Always best out to the far north and west of the UK. That's how things look at day 10. Broadly, where it is at the start, where we started off on Monday next week, with high pressure out to the northwest, a trough of low pressure still within the 500 millibar flow, so up to the 17th of June, staying cool and showery. In the more extended range, Well, we just keep this blocking signal going remarkably. So we're up to 23rd of June now. Sunday 23rd of June has this area of high pressure to the north, has low pressure running into the south. And so you can envisage that's still pretty cool and still pretty unsettled, even going up to the 23rd of June as far as we can go. This is the 5-day total, 5-day accumulated precipitation based on that GFS run. So in the next 5 days, taking us to the beginning of next week, this is how much precipitation we have accumulated. GFS is forecasting anything up to sort of 70 millimetres across parts of Wales, possibly up to 50 millimetres parts of southwestern England. Even in the Midlands, in the next 5 days, we're kind of going up to 50 millimetres in some places. That's 2 inches. And across northern England, also sort of 50, 60 millimetres through parts of northern England too. You'll notice that for East Anglia is not as wet as that, only up to sort of 15 to 20 millimetres, much of East Anglia. And the northwest of Scotland and Northern Ireland also not as wet in the next 5 days. That's the 10-day accumulated precipitation, and look at that, it's going for a real deluge, particularly across many parts of England and Wales. Parts of Wales, for example, forecast in the next 10 days to have over 100 millimetres. 100 millimetres is 4 inches, 25 millimetres to an inch. So, yeah, that's right, 100 millimetres would be 4 inches of rain being forecast for Wales. Parts of the Midlands, anywhere up to 80 millimetres through parts of the Central Midlands. Even over in East Anglia, we're kind of like between 30 and 40 millimetres for East Anglia and South East England, but nowhere near as wet as that for Scotland and Northern Ireland. So much of Northern Scotland, for example, only kind of like 5 to 10 millimetres across the far north of Scotland, and Northern Ireland in the next 10 days only up to around 20 to 25 millimetres. So it really does look as though the focus is for the wet weather in the next 10 days is across England and Wales, and much less so up in the north and west. One of those rather unusual scenarios that do occur from time to time, and purely down to the blocking pattern that we've got going on here. We go through to the parallel run. Remember, from next Wednesday, 12th of June, the parallel run will become the operational GFS. So we'll be very soon be finishing talking about the parallel GFS run. Cool and showery conditions on Monday. And as we go through into Tuesday, well, again, here's that low pressure developing to our east. This is Wednesday, 12th of June, when the parallel will become the operational. Low pressure is sitting over the Low Countries. We're pulling in this northeasterly wind that could bring a deluge to eastern coastal areas on Wednesday, and then that low pressure moving in from the east. If this was winter, this would be one of those real snowmakers, but we can get with east to northeasterly winds and blocking highs. This would be kind of like a February 1991 or January 1987 type foot of snow falling on eastern England type scenario. As it is, it's going to bring a deluge of heavy rain in from the east if this comes off. So it'll bring outbreaks of heavy and persistent rain into the eastern side of the country, with a cold northerly wind as well. Driest, warmest weather out to the north and west of the country, close to that blocking area of high pressure. And then as we go into the second half of next week with parallel GFS, well, we tried to ridge in a little bit of the high pressure to the north and west, so that's not too bad, not as bad as the GFS operational was showing. In the more extended range, where it's not long before low pressure is starting to head back in from off the Atlantic, so remaining quite cool and showery with the parallel GFS up to the end of that run, taking us to the 23rd of June. ECM is looking like this, rather showery and relatively cool on Monday. But as we go through into next week, well, again, notice low pressure is developing both to our east and also to our south, as we have this huge blocking area of high pressure close to Greenland and Iceland up here. And it just turns more unsettled through into the second half of next week. Low pressure, particularly focused on England and Wales, potentially bringing quite a lot of wet weather there. These are really unusual weather patterns. I have to emphasise that. This is a very unusual weather pattern that we've got here, with such an extensive amount of northern blocking around Greenland, Iceland, and low pressure to the south. The last time we saw anything like like this in June would have been 2012. So that was a really wet and cold, miserable summer. The blocking signal carried on throughout the whole of the summer. So hopefully that's not the way this is going to go, but certainly it is shades of 2012 and also shades of 2007, which was also a notably wet and cold summer with flooding rains and caused primarily by extensive blocking around Greenland and Iceland. Now, as we go into extended range with the ECMWF, that's how we look. So up to day 10, taking us to the 17th of June, still rather unsettled. We're trying to build up the heights to our south. It all looks very, very flimsy. We have got a bit of a ridge across sort of Spain and into France, but that looks really, really flimsy. Lots of low pressure out into the Atlantic, and I think very, very quickly any attempt at building up a ridge across France is going to be doomed to fail, as low pressure will undoubtedly roll in off the Atlantic based on where that's finishing up at day 10. These are the options I've got on the table within the ECM ensembles today. So we've got 26 members of the ECM ensembles at day 10, which is the 17th of June, including the ECM control room that looks like that. Extensive northern blocking around Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure out to the west. So obviously they're going to be quite unsettled, bringing low pressure in from the Atlantic. Then it's a 25. It's almost a 50-50 split. 25, including the ECM operational run. That's the run we're just looking at. That again have this northern blocking, but low pressure is just a little bit further away from us. So temporarily it's slightly drier, but I mean any sort of ridge is almost certainly doomed to fail there, as low pressure is likely to come back in from off the Atlantic. So they're both looking very blocked, and they're both looking pretty grim really at day 10. In 2 weeks' time, the option that we have, it's 51 out of 51 members looking like this. So still that northern blocking signal to our north, but just extending the ridge down into some central parts of Europe. So possibly ever so slightly drier and a little bit warmer there by the 22nd of June. But we're talking about 2 weeks away. Finally, just have a look at CFS-V2 for July. So these are the 700. This is the 700 millibar height anomaly for July from the CFS-V2 today. There's been a very grim update for anyone who wants warm and dry summer weather, but this does look a little bit better for July. It's going for above average heights, albeit a relatively weak area of above average heights, but above average heights nevertheless, to be centred over the UK. And also back into Europe as well. Low pressure is being pushed out into the middle of the Atlantic. So that would be a substantially drier and warmer signal for July with that ridge of high pressure. Temperature anomalies for July forecast to be above average, not just for the UK, but through most parts of Europe. And precipitation anomalies, no signal, but with a ridge centred over Central and Northern Europe, you would expect relatively dry precipitation there. So maybe it's going to be a case that the summer will pick up as we get through into July and maybe into August. That's what the summer forecast suggested. The Yasmin summer forecast always looked rather dodgy for June. So the summers that we are channeling, I think, this year, kind of like summer of 1990, summer of 1991, possibly summer of 1997. All of those summers had quite unsettled Junes, quite wet Junes, and then they got much warmer and drier later on in the summer. And that's kind of like the summer that we're channeling for this summer. So maybe the CFS there is picking up on improvements in terms of warmer, drier weather for July. We shall have to see. Sometimes, though, as we know from the summers that I talked about earlier, like 2012 and 2007, when the northern blocking gets going, it can, particularly true in summer, it can prove to be very, very stubborn and hard to get rid of it. So if that northern blocking does not reduce over Greenland and Iceland, we could find ourselves locked into a dismal summer pattern such as we had. The last one was 2012, and then before that, going back to 2007. We shall see. I think July is going to be a very telling month for this summer. I think July will tell us if we keep that northern blocking going into July, then could be curtains for the summer. But we shall see. It's still very early days, only the 7th of June. So let's wait and see where things are looking in around 4 or 5 weeks' time. But certainly for the next week to 10 days, the blocking continues, and so does the unsettled summer pattern. Looks like England and Wales in particular could be in for quite a deluge. Right, tomorrow we'll have the week ahead forecast for you, and we'll also have a week to 10 day video update as well, so keep checking back to all of the updates. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.